The war did not begin with fire. It began with silence. Across the galaxy, worlds were going dark one by one. Star maps that once glowed with life now showed empty space. Trade routes collapsed. Defense lines failed. Messages stopped coming. Everyone knew what that meant. The enemy was advancing. They did not rush. They did not boast. They moved slowly, crushing fleets and cities with the same cold patience. Entire armadas vanished in hours. Strong civilizations that had ruled for centuries fell in days. At first, the galaxy believed it could still win. Alliances were formed quickly. Emergency councils were called. Fleets gathered from every corner of known space. Admirals promised victory. Leaders gave speeches filled with hope. But hope did not last long. The first great battle was a disaster. Thousands of ships were destroyed. Survivors returned broken and silent. The second battle was worse. Defense stations that were said to be unbreakable fell without warning. Entire planets were burned from orbit. Soon, no one spoke of winning anymore. They spoke of holding. Then they spoke of surviving. Then they stopped speaking at all. On the front lines, soldiers fought without sleep. Their weapons overheated. Their shields failed. Many had not eaten properly in days. They kept fighting because stopping meant death. In command rooms far from the battle, leaders stared at screens filled with red warnings. Every report sounded the same. Another system lost. Another fleet gone. Another evacuation failed. Some leaders began to whisper the word no one wanted to say. Defeat. Meetings became shorter. Arguments faded. There was nothing left to debate. The numbers were clear. The enemy had more ships, better weapons, and no mercy. One by one, governments prepared for the end. Refugee ships filled the skies of safer worlds. Cities overflowed. Supplies ran low. Fear spread faster than any fleet ever could. Parents stopped telling their children stories about heroes. There were no heroes left. On the largest surviving command station, the final emergency council gathered. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No one argued. No one shouted. They all knew why they were there. This was not a meeting to plan victory. It was a meeting to decide what would be remembered after everything fell. A senior commander broke the silence. Our last defense line will collapse within days, he said. His voice was tired, not afraid. After that, there will be nothing left between the enemy and the core worlds. No one replied. Another leader stood slowly. We have no fleets left to send, she said. Our allies are destroyed or retreating. We cannot stop them. The word defeat hung in the air, heavy and final. Then someone at the far end of the table spoke. His voice was quiet, almost unsure. What about the humans? Several heads turned. Some faces showed confusion. Others showed tired amusement. Humans, someone repeated softly. They stayed out of the war. They sent observers, not fleets, another added. They warned us, but they did not fight. A bitter laugh echoed through the room. If they were going to help, a commander said, they would have done so already. The speaker did not argue. He only nodded. The council moved on. Evacuation plans were discussed. Records to preserve. Final messages to send. No one mentioned humans again. But as the meeting ended, one officer remained behind. She looked at the empty table, then at the star map still glowing faintly on the wall. Her world was already marked for destruction. She knew there was no hope left. Still, she hesitated. With shaking hands, she opened a secure channel. The signal was old, rarely used. It had been created years ago, just in case. The message was short. No speeches. No pride. We are losing the war. If you receive this, understand that this is not a request for help. It is only a record of our failure. She sent it. The signal disappeared into space. She did not expect an answer. Far away, beyond the battle lines, beyond the burning worlds, the message traveled through silent stars. It passed places untouched by war. Places that had been watching. And somewhere, in a quiet system no one thought about anymore, a signal light turned on. Humans had received the message. They did not announce it. They did not reply right away. But deep in human space, something ancient and powerful began to wake. The galaxy believed the war was already lost. It had no idea what was coming next. The message reached human space without noise or warning. It arrived as a weak transmission, damaged by distance and war. Many systems ignored it automatically. It carried no demand, no threat, no promise of reward. Just a quiet confession of failure from a dying galaxy. But humans did not ignore it. Deep within a secured human relay station, the signal was flagged and forwarded. No alarm sounded. No emergency lights flashed. Still, the message moved faster than most battle reports ever had. Within hours, it reached the highest level of human command. The room where it was played was small and plain. No banners. No large screens filled with dramatic images. Just a table, a few officers, and silence. The message ended, and for a moment no one spoke. They did not ask who was to blame. They did not argue about politics. They did not debate whether the galaxy deserved help. One officer finally broke the silence. "So it has reached this point," he said calmly. Another nodded. "They are finished if nothing changes." There was no panic in the room. Only understanding. Humans had watched the war from the beginning. They had studied every battle, every failure, every mistake. They knew the enemy's strength. They also knew something the rest of the galaxy did not. This war had been lost long before the first fleet was destroyed. A commander leaned forward. "Do we proceed?" No one asked what that meant. Everyone already knew. "Yes," came the answer. Simple. Final. Orders moved through human space with quiet speed. Shipyards activated. Systems unlocked that had not been used in decades. Crew lists were finalized without argument. There was no public announcement. Most humans went on with their lives, unaware that history was changing. Only a small number knew what was being prepared. And those who knew did not speak about it. In a distant dockyard, hidden far from common trade routes, a massive structure rested in darkness. It was not new. It was not beautiful. Its shape was sharp, flat, and heavy, like a blade forged for a single purpose. The ship had no name painted on its hull. It did not need one. Engineers moved across its surface, checking systems that had never failed. Power cores hummed softly, as if waking from deep sleep. Weapon systems came online one by one, silent and obedient. Inside, the crew arrived without ceremony. They were not legends. They were not chosen for fame. They were chosen because they were calm. Because they did not hesitate. Because they understood what this ship meant. The captain stood on the bridge, looking at the stars ahead. He had seen wars before. This one felt different. Not because of the enemy, but because of what humans were about to reveal. A quiet voice spoke behind him. "All systems ready." The captain nodded. "Set course." There were no cheers. No dramatic music. The ship did not rush forward. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if time itself had adjusted to its presence. As it entered faster than light travel, space bent around it. Sensors across human territory flickered, then stabilized. The ship vanished from view. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the war continued. Another defense line fell. Another world burned. Enemy fleets moved closer to the core systems. Survivors sent final messages that were never answered. The galaxy waited for help that was not coming. Or so it believed. Days passed. Then hours. On the battlefield, alien soldiers noticed strange readings. Their sensors showed distortions in space. Not explosions. Not fleets. Something else. Commanders dismissed it at first. Malfunctions were common now. Systems were old. Stress was high. Then the distortion grew. It was not fast. It did not rush like an attacking fleet. It arrived with terrifying patience. The sky above the battlefield began to darken, even though no clouds were present. Light bent in strange ways. Long shadows formed where none should exist. Soldiers stopped firing. Some lowered their weapons without understanding why. Fear spread quietly, like a cold wind. Enemy commanders demanded reports. None made sense. Then something massive began to appear. Not many ships. Not an armada. Just one. It emerged from folded space without sound. No explosions. No warning shots. Just a shape that blocked the stars behind it. For a moment, the battlefield fell completely silent. No one knew what it was. But everyone felt the same thing. The war had changed. Far away, the human captain watched the enemy positions light up on his display. He did not smile. He did not speak. He only gave a single order. Begin. And across the galaxy, hope returned, not as a promise, but as a fact. The first thing the soldiers noticed was the silence. Weapons were still raised. Explosions still burned in the distance. But the sound faded, as if the battlefield itself was holding its breath. Some soldiers thought their hearing had failed. Others believed they were finally dying. Then they looked up. The sky was no longer the same color. Where smoke and fire once ruled, a deep shadow spread across the clouds. It was not natural. It did not move like weather. It moved with purpose. Slow. Heavy. Certain. Enemy commanders shouted orders through broken channels. Radar systems screamed warnings, then went quiet. Target locks failed. Missiles refused to arm. Energy weapons powered down without explanation. Fear crept into voices that had known only control. "What is that?" someone whispered. The answer arrived before the question finished echoing. The ship finished emerging from folded space. It was enormous, far larger than any single warship the galaxy had ever built. Its shape was flat and sharp, like a blade hanging over the world. No glowing markings. No bright colors. Just dark metal and cold edges. It did not fire. It did not move. It simply existed. And that was enough. Across the battlefield, soldiers from every side froze. Even the enemy, who had shown no mercy for months, hesitated. They had faced fleets. They had crushed stations. But this was different. This was not a weapon rushing to fight. This was a presence. Sensors tried again to scan the ship. Every attempt failed. Data returned incomplete or corrupted. Some systems shut down completely, as if refusing to understand what they were seeing. An enemy admiral screamed into his command channel. "All ships, fire now." Nothing happened. Weapons systems did not respond. Power drained away from shields. Engines flickered. Panic spread through the enemy fleet like fire through dry air. Then the human ship moved. It did not charge forward. It adjusted position slightly, almost gently. The motion was slow, but it changed everything. Space around it warped. Smaller ships struggled to maintain balance. Some drifted helplessly. Others collided with each other. Still, no shots were fired. On the ground, alien soldiers dropped to their knees. Some covered their heads. Others stared upward in disbelief. They had been winning moments ago. Now they felt small. Weak. A commander on the ground shouted, "Is it attacking?" No one answered. The human ship finally spoke. Not with words. With action. A single beam of light reached down from its hull. Thin. Precise. It struck an enemy command ship hovering far above the battlefield. There was no explosion. No fireball. The ship simply stopped. Its lights went out. Its engines died. It drifted silently, dead in space. The message was clear. The battlefield erupted again, but this time with fear. Enemy fleets tried to retreat. Some attempted emergency jumps. None succeeded. Space itself seemed unwilling to let them escape. Another beam fired. Then another. Each strike removed a ship from existence as if it had never mattered. No wasted energy. No anger. Just efficiency. The galaxy had fought this war with desperation and rage. Humans fought it with calm. The human captain watched the battlefield with steady eyes. He did not raise his voice. He did not celebrate. His crew worked in silence, executing orders that had been planned long before the war began. An officer spoke quietly. "Enemy command structure is collapsing." "Continue," the captain replied. On the enemy flagship, leaders argued and shouted. Some demanded surrender. Others screamed for more power, more weapons, more time. None of it mattered. They had made a mistake long ago. They had believed humanity was weak because humanity was quiet. They had believed no response meant no threat. Now they understood the truth. Humans did not rush to war. Humans waited. On the ground, the surviving Allied soldiers watched in stunned silence. They had been prepared to die. Some had already said their final goodbyes. Now they stood beneath a sky controlled by a single ship. Hope returned slowly, carefully, as if afraid to break. One soldier whispered, "We're going to live." Another replied, "What is that ship?" No one knew the answer. Above them, the human warship turned slightly, aligning itself with the heart of the enemy fleet. The movement was deliberate. Final. The captain issued a final command for this phase of the battle. Remove their ability to fight. The ship obeyed. Across the stars, the war that had once seemed endless began to end. And for the first time since the fighting started, the galaxy realized something terrifying and wonderful at the same time. The humans had arrived. And they had not come to negotiate. The enemy had always believed power came from numbers. More ships. More soldiers. More weapons. That belief had carried them across the galaxy, crushing one world after another. It had worked against every civilization they faced. Until now. The human ship did not chase fleeing fleets. It did not flood space with fire. It focused on something far more important. Control. As the enemy forces scattered in panic, the ship's systems adjusted. Invisible fields spread outward, locking down entire regions of space. Jump drives failed. Long-range weapons shut down. Communication arrays went silent. The enemy had ships. They had weapons. But they no longer had a war. On the ground, Allied soldiers advanced carefully. Not because they were ordered to, but because fear had been replaced with disbelief. They moved through burning ruins, stepping over wreckage that hours ago had been unstoppable. Enemy soldiers surrendered without resistance. Some dropped their weapons and raised empty hands. Others simply sat where they were, staring into the sky, unable to understand what had happened. This was not how wars usually ended. the human ship finally transmitted a message. It was not loud. It was not threatening. It was clear. To all hostile forces. Power down your weapons. This conflict is over. The words echoed across every remaining channel. Some enemy commanders refused to listen. They ordered attacks. They tried to break free. They failed. Every act of resistance was answered instantly and precisely. No cities were destroyed. No worlds were burned. Only weapons and command ships were removed. The humans were not punishing the enemy. They were disarming them. Inside the human ship, the crew remained calm. Every movement was measured. They were not improvising. This battle had been planned long before the first enemy ship ever fired a shot. A junior officer glanced at the data feed. They're collapsing faster than expected. The captain did not look surprised. They built their strength on fear. Fear breaks easily. Across the galaxy, enemy leaders tried to understand what they were facing. This ship did not behave like any weapon they had known. It did not seek glory. It did not spread terror for its own sake. It removed options. The human ship reached the enemy's central command hub. A massive structure that coordinated fleets across multiple systems. It had survived every attack the galaxy had thrown at it. Until now. One focus strike disabled its core systems. No explosion. No debris. Just silence. The enemy lost coordination completely. In that moment, the truth became impossible to deny. This single ship carried more control over the battlefield than entire fleets ever had. Humanity had not sent one ship because it lacked strength. Humanity had sent one ship because one was enough. On allied worlds, messages began to spread. At first, they sounded like rumors. The enemy is retreating. Their ships are shutting down. We're not losing anymore. Then confirmation arrived. Visual feeds showed the human warship hovering over destroyed battle zones, untouched. Enemy vessels drifted powerless around it like debris caught in a tide. People cried. Some laughed. Others simply stared at the screens, unable to accept that the nightmare was ending. On a ruined command station, the officer who had sent the desperate message stood alone, watching the feeds. Her hands trembled. She had expected nothing. She whispered, they answered. But the human ship did not stay to receive thanks. Once the enemy's ability to fight was gone, the ship slowed. Systems powered down to low readiness. It did not patrol. It did not threaten. It waited. Enemy leaders, stripped of power and pride, sent surrender signals. They were brief. Formal. Fearful. The human response was short. Surrender acknowledged. Hostilities ended. No demands. No speeches. The galaxy began to understand something important. Humans did not fight to conquer. They fought to end threats. And when they decided to act, they did so completely. As the human ship prepared to withdraw, the captain looked at the stars ahead. The war was over, but the lesson had just begun. One officer asked, should we remain in the region? The captain shook his head. No. They've learned what they need to learn. The ship turned away from the battlefield. Behind it, a galaxy rebuilt itself around a new truth. Strength was not measured in numbers. Victory was not measured in destruction. Sometimes, all it took to end a war was one ship, and the will to use it wisely. The war did not end with celebration. There were no parades. No songs of victory echoed through space. When the last enemy weapon powered down and the final surrender signal was accepted, the galaxy felt something unfamiliar. Silence. Worlds that had burned for months now stood quiet. Skies once filled with fire showed only drifting smoke. Soldiers lowered their weapons, unsure of what to do next. Many had forgotten how peace was supposed to feel. The human ship remained in place for a short time, motionless and watchful. It did not patrol. It did not threaten. It simply stayed, as if allowing the galaxy to breathe again. Allied leaders rushed to reopen communication channels. Messages of gratitude poured in. Some were emotional. Others were formal and careful. Many asked the same question in different ways. Who are you? Why did you help us? What do you want? The human response never changed. Nothing. No demands followed. No treaties were forced. No territory was claimed. The human ship did not even request supplies or support. After confirming that the enemy's ability to fight was gone, the ship began to power down its external systems. Energy fields faded. Space returned to normal. Jump routes reopened. Then, without ceremony, the ship turned. It did not announce its departure. It did not wait for permission. It simply left. As it entered faster than light travel, sensors across the region tried to track it. Most failed. Some succeeded only long enough to confirm one thing. The humans were gone. Across the galaxy, people struggled to understand what had happened. Military analysts replayed battle recordings again and again. Scientists studied data until their systems overheated. Historians argued late into the night. How could one ship end a war that millions had died fighting? The answer was not found in the ship's weapons alone. It was found in preparation. Humans had watched quietly while others rushed in blindly. They had studied the enemy's tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. They had learned when not to fight, and more importantly, when to strike. The galaxy realized something painful. This war had not been lost because the enemy was too strong. It had been lost because everyone else had rushed to fight without understanding the cost. On ruined worlds, survivors began to rebuild. Cities rose slowly from ash. Children returned to streets once filled with fear. Farmers planted crops where battle lines once stood. And everywhere, the same story was told. When the war was already lost, humans sent one ship. The enemy species, now stripped of power, retreated into silence. Their leaders were removed. Their fleets dismantled. They were no longer feared. But they remembered. They remembered the moment the sky changed. They remembered the silence before defeat. They remembered the single ship that had ended everything they believed about war. Years passed. New alliances formed, built not on fear, but on caution. Military doctrines changed. Massive fleets were no longer seen as the ultimate symbol of power. Instead, governments asked different questions. Who is watching? Who is waiting? And what will happen if humans ever decide to return? In human space, life went on as usual. The ship that ended the war was returned to its hidden dock. Systems were shut down. The crew dispersed quietly, returning to ordinary lives. They did not speak of what they had done. To them, it was just a mission. Human leaders never made speeches about the war. No monuments were built. No medals were displayed to the public. History recorded the event, but without drama. That, too, confused the galaxy. How could a species perform such an act and then move on? The answer came slowly. Humans did not seek worship. They did not seek fear. They sought safety. And when safety was threatened, they responded with certainty. Decades later, a young student on a rebuilt world asked a teacher, "Why don't wars like that happen anymore?" The teacher paused before answering. "Because everyone remembers what happened the last time the galaxy pushed too far," she said. "And what happened?" the student asked. The teacher looked up at the stars. "The war was already lost," she said softly. "Until humans deployed a single ship. From that day on, the galaxy lived by an unspoken rule. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Do not mistake patience for fear. And never forget what happens when humanity decides that enough is enough.